For someone who's listening to this, what would be one thing you would want them to take away?
I think the best thing that people can do is do a snorkel or do free dive or scuba diving for the first time, and trying to do it in a place that you can see like a lot of life.
Yeah.
So you can actually enjoy it. Because most of the time people, they go to a place that is very, very green, the water, and there's no activity going on. So after that, okay, you got your license and then you're not gonna go back to the ocean.
Right.
So I think our recommendation is to like try to do that when you, on a place that you can really, really have fun.
Okay, all right.
Welcome to another episode of Everyday Badassery, trying to get you to just be a little bit more badass today than you were yesterday. I'm bringing you inspirational stories from the field, and today I'm traveling in the Maldives. Such a beautiful, beautiful place. And I've had the opportunity to dive with somebody who I think is a total badass.
Videographer Roberto Ochoa, or film director Roberto Ochoa. I wasn't a scuba diver. I've been surfing all my life since when I was kid, like around 8-9 years old. And most of the time, every time that we go for surfing, we were scared of sharks. You know, most of the people that they surf, they are afraid of sharks, because most of the people that die when surfers, maybe because of big waves or shark attacks. So that's the thing that I was, like the reason that I was really afraid. Until one time on a cruise ship, and I didn't know what to do when I was on the cruise ship. So every time that we end up on the island, I was like, you know what, I should do something over here and take advantage of visiting the island and visiting all the nature and all the water activities that you can do in each of these places. So that's actually when I decided to do scuba diving. I didn't know that I was gonna scuba dive with sharks. I didn't know that part.
Wait, which island were you on?
I think it was in the Bahamas, in Nassau, I think.
Yep.
So when I arrived there, I went scuba diving, and then I saw a shark really close to me, and I was like, you know what? Like, I stopped diving, I stopped moving. I was like,
how close is close?
Maybe like around 6 meters away from me.
Okay.
So if you see a shark for your first time like that, you know, like you don't know what's gonna happen, you know. So actually I stopped, and all the people from my group were still diving, still going, you know. So I was like, you know what? But if I move my arm or something, I will get bite by this shark. So I was like, I didn't move. I stayed like this, like you know what? I'm just gonna hold, wait until they see me or something. And then the guy turned back and he saw me, that I was like very, very nervous without moving or anything. So that's when he came, actually. He was like, what is going on? So I was like this, you know, like a shark. So he saw a shark, and then he grabbed the shark and he was like petting the shark. I was like, what is going on over here, you know? Like,
that's because it was a Nerf shark, right?
Exactly. They don't do anything, you know. So, but the thing is that after I saw that, I was like touching the shark too, you know, like, Jesus, nothing happened. So after that, we came out from the water, and he asked me actually where I was from. And I told him, yeah, I'm from Ecuador. And he's like, yeah, and you've been in the Galapagos. That's like the shark sanctuary. I was like, yeah. And you don't scuba dive? I was like, nope. So that's the thing, like most of the people, they don't understand the shark behavior. And even worse, that I was from Ecuador and I didn't scuba dive, you know, and I live in one of the best places to scuba dive with sharks. And that's when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get certified and start getting involved in the underwater life.
Yeah.
You know?
Tell me one thing that you learned about sharks that helped you to overcome that fear. I mean, Nerf sharks are an interesting example because they can be very large, but they're so mellow, and they're not a threat at all. But what's one thing that you learned about sharks that helped you to overcome that fear?
I think when I started to scuba dive in the Galapagos, most of the time when I was trying to get like closer shots from sharks, they were really really afraid of me. But it's not that they are afraid of me, they are afraid of the bubbles that we make, and so it's the noise actually. So I was like looking the ways that I can get closer to them so I can get good shots, or I try to interact with them. And that's actually when I started to free dive also. And that's when you start getting involved with like more into like the connection that you can have with these species. So that's actually what I really really like about sharks. And they're very very smart, and they know what are you doing, and if you understand them, it's very 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 it's very important. Like in this case, like when you go snorkeling or free dive or scuba diving, sometimes they can get a little bit of attention of you and they can come close to you. But if you have an eye contact with the sharks, they're gonna see that you're looking to them, and
Interesting.
they'll have their respect or their space with you. So
How much time between your first Nerf shark and your later shark dives did you feel totally comfortable, or were you already comfortable after that?
I think
first time?
after that I was feeling okay. When you go to Galapagos, you're not gonna see one shark or two sharks. Maybe in one single dive, you're gonna see like around 30 or 40 sharks. So that's when you see that they don't do anything, you know. Like, and most of the time when there are like when you see shark attacks in the news and stuff, most of the time are in like shallow areas on beaches, and this is because they get very confused. They see a shadow, and the shadow of a surfer, in this case, looks like a sea turtle. And some of the sharks, like in this case, tiger sharks, they eat sea turtles. So when they see a surfer, it's like the shadow is very very similar than a tortoise. So that's why there's this kind of attacks. So when you start understanding all this, that's when you think, you know what? Okay, it's okay to dive. It's okay to snorkel with sharks. The only thing that you need to know is their behavior. You know, if you know all that, you'll be okay with.
Yeah. Did I tell you I was afraid of the ocean?
Oh, really?
I was afraid. I grew up in San Diego, was deathly afraid of going in the water by myself. I would only go in if there were others with me. And it was really because it was such a mystery to me as to what was down there. And so scuba diving was me facing my fears, and the more I could understand how the animals behave in the ocean, the less I felt afraid of them. It's really just about knowledge, because you think that at least for me, I just felt like everything was going to attack me if it was around me. And if anything, they want to have nothing to do with you. When was the last time that you felt afraid while scuba diving?
My last time, well, I have some experience with sharks, and that's another thing that you need to understand them. You know, like you cannot go in the water by yourself in a place that is full of sharks. You know, so I've been having some experience that one time a sea lion came and saved my life when I was in the middle of like 60 sharks.
Wow.
And maybe those are the times that you learn how to approach sharks, or learn how to get to be on a place safe. You know, most of the time when you are scuba diving, you're always, or free diving, you're always with your dive buddy or more people. So that's when everything is gonna be okay. But you never know if you're by yourself. You don't have anybody to ask for help or support, you know. So it's I can
Hold on,
say
what
that-
the hell did this sea lion do?
I don't know. It was I started to free dive. Nobody was doing that during that time in the Galapagos, so I went for a free dive to see how the species will react with me. And so I was free diving. I'm sorry, with a school of hammerheads, and everything was okay. So when I came back, I started to have some silky sharks around me, and some Galapagos, and then I ended up having like a lot, like 40 or 50 sharks going all the way around me. So every time that I look back or get eye contact with each shark, the sharks were moving, but still I was getting more and more and more. So that's when you started to think, you know what, this is something is gonna happen now. And then a sea lion came, and I was like, you know what, now this, like, and it was this big sea lion alpha. It was a huge one. He came, he stayed right next to me, and then he turned around and face down. And when he saw the sharks, all the sharks went away.
Oh wow.
So I think it was like, I'm 100% that he knew that I was like in problem, like something was gonna happen to me. And that's when, like, how nature is, sometimes other species can save you.
That's a crazy story.
And I seen like all the other stories, like with whales and sea lions, and sometimes sea lions end up in top of the whales because there's orcas around and stuff like that. So you never know how can be the reaction of other species,
Right. Wow. So hold on. One of the other things that you recently swam with is a crocodile, right? Did you feel any fear during that time?
Actually, the first time, yes. I did with alligators in Florida for the first time. Then after that, when I went to Cuba, I think, well, those crocodiles were smaller than the alligators, so I think, you know what, this place is gonna be more calm.
Well, why did you feel scared in the first place when you were in Florida?
That's a huge animal, though.
That's huge. Okay, fair.
But everything was okay, and I see many people doing it and not having any type of problems. So that's when I thought, you know what, I want to go to a place that is completely like wild to do it. And this place in Cuba that is called El Jardines de la Reina, it's a place that is in the ocean, so you have the mangroves right next to the ocean, and all the crocodiles are right there, and sometimes they end up in the ocean and they come back.
Wow. Okay, that's just wild. Actually, for someone who does not know a lot about free diving, how long can you hold your breath for, and how deep are you going?
Well, deep, I'm not sure. I think I did once, like around 45, 50 meters with the scooter.
Wow.
But I never go too deep, and I never hold too much time, because when I don't do any type of competition for free diving. I do free diving because I want to be more like as natural as possible with marine life. So and the thing is that every time that I'm with my camera, when I do free dive, I don't use any light or anything. So most of the marine life it's in the shallow, it's in the reef, and the reef is no more than 20 meters. And if I go more than 25 meters, you don't even have light.
Yeah.
So it's not good for filming. So I never go too deep for free diving because I'm not gonna have light, and most of the stuff is 20 meters up, So
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Last question: would you consider yourself a badass?
Maybe.
Why only maybe?
Maybe because well, I really enjoy what I do. But I think I discovered this. I think I should discover this earlier that I'm right now. So I've been doing this like almost 10 years, but I think if I had done this maybe when I was 15 years old, maybe I can be better now,
Yeah.
So
How'd I know that'd be your answer? Thank you, Roberto. What an incredible story. It's been amazing to dive with Roberto, and I'm not surprised by his response to his badass question. He is a total badass. I hope you found some inspiration in his story. Leave us a comment below. If so, this podcast is available on YouTube and everywhere podcasts can be found. Go forth, be a badass. We'll see you in the next adventure. Ciao.